Hello everybody, it's your main man Luki Guki here. So we've all pondered and wondered in our life. Are we smart or are we dumb? Well, I watched Rick and Morty, I have 200 IQ. So, to boost our butthole ego of how smart we are, we watched these videos. 7 detective fucking questions only the smartest people can answer! And so, I watched it to boost my ego. But they're fucking bullshit, and here's why. Alright, so we're here. 7 detective riddles only the most attentive 1% can solve. So let's see. Can I solve them? Or are they fucking bullshit? Because if I cannot solve them, I mean, I'm the smartest person in the world. I have to be able to solve them.
Would you like to be a secret agent?
Yes!
Can't you live without secrets in your life?
Yes!
Well, especially for you, we have some very interesting riddles, which
Thank
not
you!
everyone will be able to solve.
Ah!
Riddle,
I'll
you'll
be
have
the
a few seconds to
1%.
think, but if you need a little more time, go ahead and put the video on pause.
I won't do that. I won't. Oh, fuck. Ah, shit.
While investigating this murder, the policeman got some info on a possible criminal, a guy called Thomas. All the evidence pointed at him. But when the guards finally caught him, he had an alibi. According to Thomas, at 5 p.m, when the crime was committed, he was in the city park and took several photos there. As evidence, the man showed the police the pictures. Here they are. However, the detectives carefully studied the images and realized that the criminal's alibi was fake, and he remained the main suspect in the murder. How did the law enforcement officers come to this strange conclusion?
Alright, so I have a conclusion. Okay, I'll put, I don't want the music. Okay, so as you can see, there are tropical trees over there and over here. There are no pine trees. These are some pine trees, which means that it's in a different location, which means that he took them in different times, in different days. There, let's see what it is.
Well, take a closer look at the photos that Thomas made. You probably noticed that there are no shadows in the picture.
Yes, there are no shadows because they're fucking clouds. It's a cloudy day. Cloudy and gloomy day, that's why there are no shadows.
It usually happens at noon, when the sun is right above your head. Since the crime was committed in the evening, when the objects cast long shadows, the photos that Thomas made were not good as an alibi.
What? Okay, let me just explain to you. It doesn't matter what time of the day, as long as there's clouds in the sky, you know, shivering and keeping the sun away from everybody. There will be no shadows, even though it's in the fucking evening. Oh, sorry for my profanity. Even if it's in the evening and it's cloudy, there will be no shadows. Alright, let's have a look at the next one. Alright, so this one is just, it's kind of a stupid one. It's a really obvious one. This guy with golden bricks in his suitcase just walks, and this other guy takes the suitcase and is like, oh, I thought it was my suitcase with clothes in it. And the police were like, oh, you're arrested because everybody would know the difference between gold bricks and clothes. It's just really obvious, this one. Really obvious. They just do this to boost my ego. They're like, okay, you lost the last one, but here's an easy one so that you'll get rock hard and won't click away and keep on watching our video.
You came to your senses in the middle of a mysterious ice cave. You don't know how you ended up there, and there's no one around who can help you. After wandering around the room a little, you find 4 doors and a note in front of each of them. The first door leads directly into an icy underground lake. If you fall, you'll die from hypothermia. Behind the second door, there's a room with a trap, and once inside, metal spikes will come out of the walls and pierce you through. The third door hides a pool with hungry killer whales ready to have you for lunch, and the fourth room is also a trap that will crush anyone who enters the room. Which of the doors would you choose to get out of the ice cave?
Alright, I'll choose the one with the hungry killer whales. I think I've heard this one before. Because the hungry killer whales, they're trapped in there as well, and they don't have any nourishment, and they'll be already dead. Alright, let's see what they have to say anyway.
If you don't have the wonderful ability to survive at extremely low temperatures, then it's better to swim across the pool with the killer whales. Yes, the killer whales are true killers, but humans are not part of their diet. In addition, these creatures have a great sight and can tell a human from a seal, therefore they don't pose any danger.
I was kinda right on that one, but but the reason why is still fucking stupid. Let me just say that. I was still right. I was still right. That boosted my ego a bit, just saying, and I was still right.
A well-known detective was invited to help the police to investigate a gas explosion. At first glance, everything was straightforward. Two businessmen met in an old house to discuss the details of a future deal. After the reunion, one of them lit a cigarette and went out to the car that was waiting for him. At this time in the house, there was an explosion, and the businessman inside was killed. The gas supply system in the house hadn't been tested for a long time, and it probably needed a repair, so the story of the surviving businessman was plausible. Not in vain, explosions due to gas leakage occur from time to time, but the detective immediately pointed out to the investigators an inconsistency in his testimony.
Let me just listen to this one more time. I'm very confused. So this businessman lit his cigarette and then went out of the house. I don't know. I'm really confused myself. I don't know if the explosion was because of he lit the cigarette, then he would die with it. But he just said he lit the cigarette and then he went out, so I assume that that wasn't the cause of the explosion. The explosion just happened all of a sudden. I don't know. I don't fucking know. You won. You won, Mind Warehouse. You won.
Well, if the surviving businessman were to smoke while in the house, the explosion would have occurred earlier and both businessmen would have died. Most likely, it was a plan to eliminate a competitor, and the police should thoroughly investigate the businessman and find out his motives in order to finally uncover the crime.
Oh, wait a minute. It's kind of a word play on this one. So this is what Mind Warehouse says. He says that he lit the cigarette. It's a fact that he lit the cigarette and he walked out. He didn't say that the businessman claimed that he lit the cigarette.
Two businessmen met in an old house to discuss the details of a future deal. After the reunion, one of them lit a cigarette and went out to the car.
Yeah, that's where I got confused. They didn't say the businessman claimed he lit the cigarette and walked out, and due to the spark of the cigarette or due to the ember of the cigarette, it exploded. It's just a sloppy one. It could be a good one if Mind Warehouse wasn't so fucking sloppy in telling the story.
A daring robbery was committed in one of the most famous museums in the world. An unknown criminal turned off the electricity, completely disabled the cameras and the security system, and then stole many ancient artifacts and ornaments worth several $1 million. At the same time, an invaluable goblet of rock crystal was found broken, which, according to the legend, belonged to King Arthur himself. The fragments lied in a pile under a pedestal. The witnesses interviewed by the police, two elderly cleaners, claimed that they'd not seen or heard anything, but the police didn't believe them. Why did the detectives have some suspicions about the venerable old men?
You won this time, Mind Warehouse. I don't know.
Well, the cleaners made an error because of an old habit and a passion for cleaning. After accidentally breaking the goblet, they swapped the fragments into a neat little pile. If no one had touched the artifact before the arrival of the police, then its fragments would be scattered.
So let me get this straight. These two janitors, the cleaners, they were the one robbing. They took the stuff and then they tipped something over, and then they went on their way, took the vases out, went back in to the cleaning shed, took the fucking broom, and went cleaning up, and then didn't realize that they cleaned it up. They didn't realize. I don't understand. I legit don't understand. How could this error happen? There's no way in God's name that this error could happen. Unless you don't watch Rick and Morty, then you're pretty stupid, but you know.
17 pocket thefts occurred at a small shop during 1 week, but the thief managed to escape. The next week, a famous detective arrived at the crime scene and ran into an old acquaintance, the most famous pickpocket in the city, a guy called James.
How can you be the most famous pickpocket? That's not a good pickpocket. If you're the most famous pickpocket, you're not a good pickpocket. And That's not a good thing to be the most famous pickpocket. If you're the most famous pickpocket, people will see me like, oh, that's the most famous pickpocket. He will probably pick my pocket.
Left arm on top of the jacket was in a cast and hung in a sling. James, smiling, assured the detective that he had nothing to do with the crime and had long since been retired. However, the detective did not believe a single word of the criminal and immediately arrested him. Why?
Because he had the plaster at top of his jacket. That's another stupid error that nobody would fucking make.
Well, of course, some people can rehabilitate and no longer commit crimes, but why would they use a fake orthopedic cast to cover their hand? Yep, the plaster was a fake, because a real cast is never put on top of your clothes. Stories. So once upon a time, a detective was strolling along the street, thinking about something, when suddenly a large flower pot fell on his head. Once he came back to his senses, the detective immediately began to investigate. First of all, he visited those tenants whose windows were open. "Oh, I hope you didn't hurt yourself, Mr. Detective. I don't know whose pot that was," said one of the housewives to the detective, stirring a boiling soup in a saucepan with a saucer. "My daughter and I came home only 2 minutes ago." After these words, the detective immediately realized that the flower pot that fell on his head belonged to this woman. How did he guess?
Why would the detective ever waste his time on on trying to know who accidentally pushed a pot on his head? Now I'm just thinking of other ways to go to another life. Stop being in this miserable hell of torture. Anyways, if you guys like this video, like and that stuff, so yeah.